Okay, really happy to be back together. It's been a couple weeks. We're in the deepest of the depths of the Maritz, Rabbi Yitzler Volozhin's gloss to the Nefesh HaChaim, which is called the Maimer HaTzelem. He's talking about how we're created in the image of God, V'tzalmenu Kidmusenu, and we're now getting tonight. We've looked into the heart, the Moach Lev Kaved, the mind, the heart, and the liver, and how the systems work. The Daled Yesoidos, the earth is the receptacle for all that's happening in the world of fire and Ruach and Mayim. And we're now going to get to the juncture where good meets evil in our own bodies. Okay, like where does the Yetzer Hara sort of come from? So that's on our agenda this evening. So let us begin here in the text. Omnam ve'oid yesoidos hatoivim shelo shebe pnimiyuso mustarim v'shrashim iloyim makifin ve'lo sholchu ha'arasan lepnimius. During this time interval that his other good elements that are within him are hidden. We're talking about like a young man, a nar. He's used the term nar. That he's talking about human development as a young person. Let me find it here. Okay, the person's nefesh, ruach, and neshama. People start out life. There's a Gemara in Brachas. Let me say over the Gemara in Brachas. The Gemara in Brachas says that the night has three parts. We're already in the middle of the night, 9 p.m. in Israel. The night has
the Mishmara. It's called the Mishmara, right?
Exactly. Gimel Mishmaros Halayla. And the Gemara gives simanim. The first one, the donkey brays. And the second one, the dog barks. And the third one, the old people are whispering or something like that. So there's some commentary from the Vilna Gaon that says it's a mashal. And he says it's a mashal about human life, that oilam hazeh doime lelayla. Life in this world is like the night, because it's sort of dark and hidden. We don't see God's light in this world. And the first third of life is like the donkey braying. And it's a beautiful mashal for the screaming, I'll say for men, the testosterone, the hormonal drives and really command of the body that you have as a young person. You're so physical as a young person, whether you're a baby, a child, an adolescent, puberty, men in their 20s, they're very, very focused on physical pleasure and satisfaction and so forth. We've been there, done that. And that's like a donkey, because remember the donkey in Lashon Kodesh is chamor. So you're very chomri, you're very materialist, and again, hormonal. So you're very predictable because you're driven by hormones. The second mishmar of the night is like adulthood, and that's the dog barking. And that dog barking is adulthood trying to earn a living, excuse me, Shimon, but whether you're a lawyer, barking at people and suing people, and right? Or whether you're a therapist or a businessman or whatever you're doing, but you're sort of a barking dog.
Speaking of which, I know that I know I'm officially retired, emotionally retired now, because someone by the salt pool, a woman slipped and fell pretty hard today.
Wow.
And my first instinct was to, I wouldn't say ran because it's slippery. I went to see if they can get a chovesh, and I wasn't thinking about, in the old days, dropping a card on her, so I figured, I've come around.
Yeah, good story. So we've talked about two stages of life, the stage of the donkey braying and the stage of the dog barking. And the third stage is the stage of maturity and, you're retiree, okay? So now you can enjoy a cigar at the Dead Sea, right? You're there, you're looking back on it and appreciating the good times one day at a time. And so it's a time to appreciate your relationship to Kadosh Baruch Hu. You're in with God at this stage of the game. You have really good perspective on life. You're not overcome with hormones or the need to earn a living. Baruch Hashem, you have retirement, a pension, whatever. So that gives you some freedom to like be in your mind and do what you want to do, and kids and grandkids and so forth. So that is so there's a developmental process through life, and it starts, we're seeing here, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted the neshama, the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, they're hidden at the beginning of life in the physicality of young people. They're mustarim betchila, be'atzmusam, below yifalu takeoff beklei aguf. They don't, your soul is not, so apparent when you're a young person, miyom hivaldo, ad yigdal anar, until you grow up. וכנראה בחוש שכל מה שנגדל הבלד בכלי הגוף, כן נגדל שכלו ודיבורו ומעשיו. And we're witness that as people grow up, they become deeper, more sophisticated in intellect, speech, and action. Okay, then he had a short haga. And now we're continuing on this sort of developmental process. ועוד יסודות הטובים שלו שבפנימיותו מוסתרים בשרשים אלוהים מקיפים below shalhu arasin lepnimius. So there's this process of the good forces are beginning to shine, but they haven't mamish penetrated his essence of the person from the inside. Yesh makom sheyishlatu alav koichos hara chas v'shalom. There is a vulnerability that his spirituality has not fully permeated his physicality. And so there's an opportunity for the evil forces, what does he call them? The powers of evil can dominate him. Okay? So he quotes from the Arizal that there's like this breach. There's this place between the pnimium and the makifin, between inner spirituality and outer spirituality, the makifin which surround you and what's coming from the inside. There's a little bit of space there where man's fundamental, I'm going to call it his reptile self. We have a reptile brain, and our reptile brain, we're a little bit like a lizard or like a dinosaur. And it very, very, about reproduction and ruling over others and, just getting what we need to survive without any compunctions. So it's the Yetzirah, it's the Nachash, it's a snake, right? It's our snaky self. Freud might have called it the id, right? And the ego can be dominated by that. So at a stage when the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama have yet to penetrate his inner self, there's this breach where the Sitra Achra can have a lot of power over him. And so he brings this pasuk that a person is like a wild ass when he's born, like one who is like a wild ass, be reborn as man. I have a good note here. Let's see. Okay. The reason for this is that the three internal elements contain inner light, and the part of the inner light of the lowest intensity extends into and stops within the skin. This is the opposite with the circumventing light. Is the more external the light, the greater it is, that is known. It therefore transpires that the circumventing light within the innermost garment attached to the body is the lowest intensity circumventing light. This is already maybe above our pay grade, but the Arizal is talking about different spiritual forces within us and around us. Therefore, the klipot reside there between them, i.e., between the body, the inner essence, and the garments, the circumventing lights, in the place where there is neither inner nor circumventing light, between the inner essence and that which circumvents. To me, this resonates as true from like a psychological perspective, that people are fundamentally good, like they're created in the image of God. That's what this is all about. But a lot of people have been through a lot of hard things in life. And so even though deep down they're good, and at some point, if they would get through life and put themselves on the right track and get educated and find their way to God through whatever they go through, then they'll be supported by outer things that circumvent them. So there's this inner goodness and there's this circumventing force field of good, but a lot of people get lost in the way. And the vicissitudes and the travail, the trials and tribulations of life, all the hard things that we go through, they knock people down and they basically get them entrapped in the world of evil. They sort of live serving the Sitra Achra, serving their lowest self, their reptile self, the Nachash. So I think that's a pretty good description of the human condition. We're good at our root, and we're good if we get to the self-realization. But between our inner core and self-realization, you have all these other levels of existence where people live in a lot of darkness, a lot of mud, and a lot of challenging and difficult and even evil things. So Ayer Para Adam Yulad Misitra de Dalid Chayin Dorsin Misabin al Dalid Maririn. The perspective of the four creatures that trample in impurity, the four humors, we talked about that, the white humor, red humor, yellow humor, and black humor. Mara Chiyura, Mara Sumka, Mara Yuruka, Mara Uchma. It has to do with depression, it has to do with jealousy, it has to do with maybe frivolity and rage and taiva, all these, how the humors affect our personality and basically drive us off kilter. They put us into a situation of imbalance. And we're not ourselves. We're not the best version of ourselves. We're like controlled by the Sitra Achra and entered a situation of imbalance that's steering us astray. The four Yesoidos, he calls them dachin, mean pure, they're pure, but corresponding to the four pure elements, there are these four, I'll call them scary creatures. And so just like a person can be elevated and have, be brave like a lion and fly like an eagle and ratz kitzvi lasois ratzon avinu shebashamayim, you could be like four great creatures serving God. You could also be, like a reptile and controlled by the humors in a really bad way. So this is like the challenge of the human condition. So again, although it's deep Kabbalah, I think it's also, perceptible to us from a practical and psychological perspective. Shimon?
Would you think, or would you agree with the statement that I just don't know if everybody has the same, it's not a level playing field. I don't know if it's genetic or if it's nature, nurture combined or one or the other. I don't think everybody has the same capability, maybe, to overcome this. I mean, when I look at my own failings and I look at other people, I say, I must be the only one who's failing at this, because I just can't imagine that, this friend, this neighbor, this guy, whatever, are having the same challenges. And sometimes I think to myself, well, this is not to avoid achrayut. I'm just saying, it's like, is there something, genetically wrong that, if I can't fight the fight the way someone else does, or am I just fooling myself? And everybody's got it. Everybody's got the same fight. And
Not saying. So Steve mentioned when we were together once that, everybody's running their own race. And the starting line is different for different people. We're not at the same starting line, and we're not expected to get to the same finish line. We're all here to do work on ourselves. And we're speaking now right now about, general principles, klalim, about the human condition. What does it mean the man's created in the image of God? And how does our spirituality work? And how does it integrate into our physical body? But I definitely believe that people are on different, spiritual, and just like we're on different physical levels, right? Some people are strong and healthy, and some people are born really weak and dealing with illness their whole lives. And it's totally not their fault. There's no way you could say it's their fault. And so people's lot, their goral, their mazal, lo bezchusa talia milta, ella b'mazla talia milta. Where people's station in life is very much the result of mazal. So I think that's true, sort of morally or ethically, that where you start and your capability to push yourself to overcome your dealings with the Yetzer Hara, which Yetzer Haras do you have, and so forth. I think there's a lot of sort of nature in that, of what you were born and what you were given. And then you have a lifetime to work on it. And some people use their time really well and others don't. But I do think that everybody's in a different situation.
It kind of scares me. Sounds like a touch of Hinduism that it's like, we're all on different levels, or you're born into a different level, whatever it is. It's
Well, but I mean, you talk about transmigration of souls. Okay, I mean, again,
yeah.
we're not Hindus, but our neshamas are coming from different places because it's not the first time they've been here. So that is, we do have that.
So,
So let me,
so,
yes,
so
Steve.
not only is it hard to judge how other people are doing in their own personal battles, but it's very hard to evaluate yourself. Like, how do you know you're not stacking up even better than other people? You don't know. Um, anyway, not that you should become an egomaniac or something like that, but very hard. Walk a mile in my moccasins type of thing, you
Yes.
know.
If a person is happy doing mitzvahs, like he's happy from doing good things and he
It
feels
was
good,
time.
that's a good sign, right? That,
Yeah.
and if he's good to other people, like the Mishnah says, if other people think he's doing good and other people appreciate him, that ruach habrio is noichei menu, other people, appreciate him and so forth. These are good signs that you're on the right path. So
I,
we can't know. You're right about that. We're sort of in the dark. We don't see God's scorecard. But if you're trying to do mitzvahs and be close to God and walk in His ways, and you're happy doing that, that's a really good sign, right?
I think there's some sort of thread Jewishly that anybody who's dealing with sickness or physical pain or that type of thing is being punished. You know, I really think we blame the victim quite often.
Well, what about Yisurim Shalava? There's
Uh,
something
what?
there's something called Yisurim Shalava, right? Where God is challenging a person with undeserved suffering in order to sort of build him up and give him a better Olam Haba and so forth. So though I don't deny your point, but there is a place that, for sure some people suffer, not
Yeah,
not as an expression of punishment.
big topic.
Agreed. So I'm going on in the text. The Avki Eis Chayin Sichliois. This Sachrin the Kursaya. The Eis Le'ela Minayu V'Gvoyin Aleim. Omnam Halo Hashroshim Hema B'Shorsham B'Bchinas Makifin. Lo Nichnesu Adain. V'Zeu V'Gvoyin Aleim. So there are living beings that encircle the throne and those above them and even higher than them. However, the roots at the root exhibit the aspect of surrounding they have not yet entered, and this is what is meant by even higher than them. Okay, he's supporting his idea that there is a spirituality which surrounds a person, which has not yet penetrated his core, his very being. So therefore, there's this gap that could allow the ruach hatuma to enter a person. Umishlita sitra de misa'ava, the ruach hatuma, nimshachim hamidos ros. Okay, we're all familiar with midos ros, people who have bad character traits, because we all do. We have some, and you have to work on yourself and not let them rule over you. Your jealousy, your lust, your kas, your rage. So from this sitra de mesava, this ruach hatuma, comes midos ros from the dalid yisodim de beirin yisoda esh. Okay, the different yisoidos, like from the fire comes gaiva, pride, arrogance, condescension, gaiva v'kas, umi yisod haruach, diburim royim. So from the element of fire is aroused pride and anger. From the element of wind, evil speech. Miyisod hamayim nitzmak taivis ros. From the water, evil appetites, right, lust and so forth. Umiyisod afar, Mana la'afaka cheloyon b'machshava dibor ma'isa beguf l'maisim royim. And it is through ultimately the yesod of afar, which is really our body, that we bring these bad things to action. From the element of dust, the vessel to express these energies in thought, speech, and action via the body, and ultimately do evil behaviors, okay, misbehaving. That's a possibility here. And yet for good behaviors, the body is lazy, indolent, heavy, and depressed, as Reb Chaim Vital explained at length, Bishara Kedusha. So for sure there's a battle, and especially at the beginning of life, putting yourself on a pathway of Torah mitzvahs and alacrity of like being quick to do mitzvahs and, enjoying doing good things and good works. That's not easy. A lot of people sort of never get on that path, and they could spend years if they ever get there, because they can be overcome with this ruach hatuma, and it turns into midos ros, which turns into bad thoughts, bad deeds, and then they get involved in a whole justification of why they're right about the way they're behaving, and the refusal to let God into their life, and they're distancing themselves from their own really shoresh haneshama, from their own spirituality. They become proud, and it would be an insult to me for me to subjugate myself to God. What am I, weak? I'm a human being and I'm great, and so I don't need to subjugate myself to some mitzvahs that's something archaic and something low and pathetic. And so they develop this whole system of thought which justifies their bad behavior, and it allows them to pursue their taivas and to behave according to their own sort of crooked morality, and they're basically lost, and it's very difficult for them as life goes on to straighten themselves out. So it becomes a major challenge, I think.
So is the Ra the default? I mean, was it your? I'm just trying to remember what you said. Was it your own personal belief that man is basically good and he gets pulled astray? Because this sounds like we do the Ra almost naturally, and we have to, we have to overcome the inertia to go on the right path. Or am I not interpreting this correctly?
I basically think that is true. I don't think that was always the case, but ever since the Chet of Adam and Chava, it is the case. Okay, so it's been a long time we've been like this. When God originally created the world, it was like 50-50, and they could have done something good and listened to Hashem, and it would have been, in a much different situation, metukan, but because it's mekulkal, and there's a taroivis of good and evil right now, with the tendency towards evil. The world is rubo ra, and so I think we are greatly challenged at this stage of history with a real lot of badness all around. And so like you're saying, that's the default. You have to fight hard to stay straight and to cling. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here with me and learning a little bit of this. Look forward to being together next week, Bezrat Hashem.
Thank you. This was a great session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.